Thank you and welcome to another episode. Today we're going to be covering third-party or vendor document tracking. One of the main issues that we find with transactions is once you start how you engage third-party vendors and also how you track those third-party reports as they come in. Interest, in addition to that, there's some interesting details and some data points that you might want to grab, including when you originally engaged the vendor, duration of time for getting reports, and tracking any back and forth documentation that's supplied both to the vendor and received from the vendor. So what we did at KOPA is we created a third-party tracking mechanism that's embedded within KOPA Hub that allows you to effectively solve all those problems. One, engage the third-party vendor. Two, track the dates and times of the reports. Track the documents themselves, the due diligence documents that's provided to and received from the vendor, and also track the reports. So once the final report is received or drafts of reports are received, you can drop it into KOPA Hub and it'll be scanned on, and the relevant important details will be extrapolated for your use in other sections. So you log into KOPA and you start off on your home page. On the left-hand side of the menu, you'll see the different options. Here, allows you to go to your overview page, shows you kind of a breakdown of what's in your portfolio at this time. The next thing on the left-hand side gives you your pipeline, and the third gives you your underwriting queue. So there are two different ways to access the third-party tracking. You can come to your underwriting queue, and for live transactions, whether they're under review, on the market, or active, you can click into that physical link item, and then you will go to your deal overview page, which on the left-hand side, you can scroll down to your third-party tracker and access it this way. Secondary way is if you go through your pipeline. So there's different presentation formats for similar detailed information, but you'll be able to move right through to an asset and due diligence. Again, it'll bring you to your deal overview page. Then you can go down to your third-party tracker, and then we can begin the process of either engaging with the vendor or tracking the document. So how does the third-party tracker actually work? So at the top, you have the various third-party reports that you might require. Here are three marquee examples that you use both for acquisitions and debt underwriting and so forth. Your appraisal, property and condition report, and environmental. So what you can do is you can re-engage that same vendor by clicking that vendor information, confirming the vendor, and a previously provided engagement letter will be sent to that vendor for their comments. And then once it's executed, it'll be returned back to you via email, and you have the opportunity to load it into the third-party tracker. If you want to add a new vendor, it's also possible here to add the new vendor, and then you can complete the drop-down menus that allow you to enter that vendor of which the vendor's record is now saved, and you'll be able to utilize or engage that vendor for other deals down the line. We find that this is important because it allows you to track the performance of a vendor long-term and effectively start to hone in on who your preferred vendors are for each of the different third-party reports. One of the examples, if you have a vendor that may be continuously going over their due diligence deadlines, then you can opt to, you have a history of that, you can provide feedback to the vendor and or opt to move to another vendor. Moving down, this is all the information that's extrapolated from the appraisal data. So what you can do is you'll have the ability to gather all this information and effectively be able to provide that information to the vendor via the appraisal documents here. And so these are all the supporting due diligence items from the transaction that can be provided to the vendor, effectively downloaded and emailed, or a link can be provided to the vendor of which the vendor will be able to tap into KOPA's Market Hub, only access the due diligence information you provided, and they will be able to download it as well. Again, the option allows you up here for you to download that information. Should you have to provide other copies, just send that information via email. Second, there's underwriting record and capture. Again, this is where we track all the dates and when the due diligence documents were sent the reporting due date and when we actually received or the report was uploaded into KOPA. Again, this gives you a great key performance indicator for you to be able to track just how that vendor is performing based on the demands of your transactions or the volume of your transactions. And then over time, be able to hone in to which vendor you prefer to work with or want to continue to build your relationship with. And then lastly, you have the ability to upload the new appraisal or the most current version of which the AI system that behind KOPA will analyze that new appraisal for you and pull out the extrapolate the more pertinent details. Here you see examples of previous files that have been uploaded. And here's some of the key information that's pulled out of the appraisal, for example. And you notice at the bottom, all the additional dates are tracked here so that you have the ability to zoom in and just make sure that their relative detail is correct, matches the report, and or if you have additional questions, you can go back to your specific vendor regarding that information. Going back to the top, we'll go to property condition report. Again, you have a similar ability to engage an existing vendor or add a new vendor. Here's the overall details of information that's provided to the appraiser. To the in the property condition engineer or inspector. All the related property condition reports that you provide. Again, the same ability to track those dates. Upload the property condition report, and effectively all the extracted information from the PCR report. As I mentioned, the third-party tracker, we have the ability to pull details and gather and track the details related to three main third-party reports, and the ability to add additional third-party trackers for various required reports that you may have in the future as part of your transaction. For example, zoning would be another report that you might want to track. But diving into the appraisal, as an example, you have the ability to engage an existing vendor or add a new vendor. And when you engage an existing vendor and you select to use that vendor and confirm the vendor, an engagement letter that you've already completed in the past will be repopulated and sent to the vendor for their review and comments, after which the signed or executed or the commented document would be sent back to you for review via email or through to the KOPA hub for you to review. Should you choose to engage a new vendor, you have the ability to add the vendor here, choose whether they're a company or individual, and then complete the subsequent details. An engagement letter would be generated for that new vendor and then sent on your behalf to that vendor for further review. Once you've engaged the vendor and you scroll down on the appraisal data page, you also see the property overview, business plan, details that pulled from the underwriting overview detail page, breakdown of the buildings or assets on your or the different structures on your asset, and the documents supporting due diligence document for the appraisal. All of these documents and the information noted above will be provided to the vendor to assist them with their part of the report. In this case, the documents shown in front of you for appraisals. For subsequent reports like the property condition report and the environmental report, those related documents or due diligence documents will be provided directly to the vendor for download. You also have the ability to download these documents here in case the vendor requests the documents in some other format, or if you want to circulate the document to another group, an outside group. You have the ability to review and capture the time and the key performance indicators related to the third-party report. This is the request submission date, when the due diligence documents were sent to the vendor, when the report is due and when the report is actually received by KOPA. And this is important because you have very, very stringent deadlines and timelines for due diligence related to different types of transactions. And what we want to do is provide you with the data to support your selection of a vendor in the future. Had that vendor historically provided the report on time? Have they sent you the required due diligence list on time? Have you been able to provide it or work adequately with that vendor? And this gives you a chance over several transactions to be able to see and track how a particular vendor is operating and performing. And lastly, you have the ability to upload the appraisal, of which extracted information can be seen below. As soon as you upload that particular vendor report, the AI supporting KOPA Hub will extrapolate the necessary details so that you can quickly review and then confirm the report. Scrolling back to the top, you'll see you have the ability to use the third-party tracker for the property condition report and environmental report, as I mentioned before, and you'd have the ability to add additional third-party reports to be tracked, including the prior example I gave of the zoning report. Let's quickly take a look at the property condition report so you could see how the format is similar to the appraisal. Property condition report, again, at the top you have the ability to select an existing vendor or engage a new vendor. You have the property condition report data that is provided to the vendor. Again, the number of buildings that you have or structures that you have on site. The different property condition reporting documents, and the ability to track the same KPIs that was shown in the appraisal report. The ability to upload the appraisal report and extrapolate the subsequent details that are important, including being able to pull out the table, the useful life table, and pull out the concluded findings for the property condition report. Going back to the top, it's a very similar format and walkthrough for the environmental report, of which we'll be able to touch on at a subsequent time. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to the KOPA team. We look forward to working with you, and we'll talk to you in the next video. Take care.